Walton, the village where nature confronted the Industrial Revolution, is surrounded by railways. There is, of course, the current express line to London, that in the past was run by the LNER Rail Company. Then there's the old LMS line that runs past Greenside that we look towards now. I remember this line having 4 sets of tracks, but now only has 1. When I was growing up, it was in regular use for transporting coal and other freight. Now, if you're lucky, you only see the occasional train. The final link in the rail triangle that encloses Walton ran northwest of Rye Hill to the south of Winterset Reservoir. This is no longer in use. Walton once had its own railway station. This was located behind the current houses located on Greenside. You can see the location of the entrance between the white coloured cottages and the red house with bay windows. This is the location as viewed from the bridge on Shay Lane. Gardens have expanded onto land that was once part of the railway. Next, we look at Shay Lane Bridge itself. Notice the preponderance of black bricks. My theory is that features built in stone were built earlier, and those in black bricks later. Shay Lane Bridge, however, represents something of an anomaly. When you look back, part of the lower bridge is built in stone. This makes me think that an older arched stone bridge was demolished when the railway was widened and the stone was left over from that. We're now walking down to a footbridge that goes over the railway. It's known locally as the Tin Bridge on account of its metal structure. Beyond the Tin Bridge, there is another site of local historic interest, the Berg Quarry, presumably named after the early lords of Walton, the de Bergs. It's located on private land in the woods beyond the white houses of Woodfield Park. I suspect that the trees are growing out of spoil excavated from the quarry that presumably created the hill that is now visible. The Berg Quarry is said to have provided the stone for Walton Hall and Charles Waterton's famous wall that enclosed the world's first nature reserve. It reputedly provided the stone that was used to build Sandal Castle. It later became an early version of a landfill site. We now look at the Tin Bridge itself. Its metal construction mirrors that of some of the other structures that we will soon come to on this stretch of railway. These are the ones constructed with black brick, so the Tin Bridge is probably associated with the same era of railway development. The next feature is another footbridge that spans a deep cutting, once boasting to be the deepest in England. You can see the start of the cutting from the Tin Bridge. The footpath to this bridge runs across farmland from the top of Site Lane. The footbridge became necessary when the line was widened from 1923 to 1925. To make it wider, the entire section of hill had to be removed and the land excavated to the tunnel level. Presumably, the footpath would previously have simply crossed the land above the tunnel. The black bricks that we mentioned earlier are again evident in the pillars holding up the bridge. I would guess that all the features containing black bricks along this line were all put in place as part of the widening process in the 1920s. This is the view down the cutting, looking towards Walton. And here's the view looking in the opposite direction. We're now looking back up towards the cutting from a footpath near the Tin Bridge. To the right of the pylons you can just make out a huge mound. This is some of the rubble that was excavated during the creation of the cutting. Today it is just about obscured by the trees that have reclaimed the area, turning what was once an eyesore into something quite beautiful. We now come back into the village, at the other side of the former station, to our next railway structure, School Lane Bridge, at the bottom of School Lane. Due to the widening of the line that we mentioned earlier, the bridge complex, at this point, clearly shows the two bridge building cultures. The first we see is the black brick addition. The bridge architecture and engineering are impressive. You can almost feel the power and industry that went into its construction. Then we see the original stone bridge. This is an excellent position from which to view the two railway periods side by side. The architecture of this bridge is markedly different, and it provides a rather impressive gateway to Walton. We're now walking past the Mount on Oakenshaw Lane. This is the site of another railway structure that is no longer visible. This structure was a tunnel or bridge that connected this area to fields on the site of the current Manor Estate. I guess that it would have come out here at the bottom of the hill on Manor Crescent. My granddad said they played football on the field after using a house on the Mount for changing rooms. I suspect that any tunnel would be very similar to the one that links Oakenshaw Lane to Chevet Terrace and Woodyacht Cottages. I would guess that it would have been filled in when the rail line was widened, though this is just speculation. We'll see the tunnel to Chevet Terrace shortly. We now head further up Oakenshaw Lane and arrive at another stone bridge. At this point, the LMS and LNER lines were joined together via a ramp. Based on my black brick theory, the stone construction might indicate that this ramp existed before the widening of the LMS line in the 1920s. The railway line here has been torn up, and the route is now used as a footpath to access the nearby Sandler Brick station. Looking back, you can see the bankings of the LMS line and the ramp as they converge. And on the other side of the bridge, you can see the banking as it heads off towards the LNER line. We now arrive at the point where Oakenshaw Lane crosses the LNER line. Here's the line as it moves off towards Sandler Brick station. This is also the place where the lower LNER line and the upper LMS line also cross. Here's the rail tunnel. Again, notice the sandstone construction. And now, panning back to the road bridge. To complicate this cluster of bridges still further, there is also the road tunnel I mentioned earlier that links Oakenshaw Lane to Chevet Terrace and Woodyacht Cottages. On the other side of the tunnel, you can see how the black bricks were used to widen the railway at our current location. The stone tunnel is set back, with the black brick structure in front of it. We're now at the viaduct on Oakenshaw Lane. This is where the LMS railway crossed the Barnsley Canal. As you can see, this is a stone viaduct with a more modern bridge and black bricks behind it as an add-on. Again, you can see the impressive metal structure of the newer bridge juxtaposed with the stone and red brick of the older bridge. The next bridge to be covered went under the LNER line at the other side of Walton Pit. Its former location can be viewed from the bottom of the Manor Estate. It's another bridge that spanned the Barnsley Canal, and another one that is, unfortunately, no longer visible. The signal here marks its approximate location. It was an arch-shaped bridge built with red bricks. If I remember correctly, it was filled in during the early 1980s, at around the time when the Intercity 125 started using the line. We now move further down this line to our final Walton railway structure, the Nine Arches Viaduct on Shay Lane. As the name suggests, it comprises 9 arches. The central arch is mainly stone, as are both ends of the bridge. It's as if they first built the ends and the central arch, and then filled in the rest with red bricks. However they built it, it's still a very elegant structure. So there ends our exploration of the historic features associated with Walton's railway lines. I hope you enjoyed it.